no peace, no justice. Look at that. Religion. What are we going to talk about on this show? We're going to be talking about all sorts of stuff. Y'all get on the show. Get on the show now. Look at me narrating the introduction for the show. I apologize for that. Ready to start another banger episode of The Way Forward. Jason's going to be joining here in just a few moments. And look, I guess in a certain sort of way, we teased that we were going to be talking about Diddy. I mean, the notion that we should talk about these Diddy parties and what's going on here. I'm going to have to lay out some ground rules today, folks, because this could get out of hand really quickly. I feel like there's going to be a Facebook strike that is imminent for most of the episode. And so here's what we want to do to keep ourselves out of trouble. You guys just pray for the show. Pray that we don't go off the rails instantly. But in all seriousness, we are going to be discussing this from the Christian worldview, what it means to desire fame to the point where you just sell your soul to the devil. Like, you've heard that phrase before, selling your soul to the devil. What does that actually mean? I think we can look at the microcosm conversation that we're going to be having today related to Diddy, his Diddy party, some of the things that have gone on in that nonsense, and see in all of our hearts, something that is so ingrained, that desires for something that only God can provide. But I think we'll see how so many people have gotten involved in this. And listen, we're not legal analysts or legal specialists, and so we're not accusing anybody of anything. But we're going to let a gentleman who used to be his producer give a little bit of his testimony, and then we're going to give our commentary. And so you are here for The Way Forward. And without further ado, let's bring on the co-host of the show, Jason Plummer. Good morning, sir.
Hi. Good morning.
Well, we picked a one today.
Yeah. Yeah.
We picked a one today.
It's sad.
Nobody made us do this.
No, it's sad. It's sad because we grew up with Diddy in that sense.
We did.
And you have this story. If you finally make it and you get into the industry, and you are a platinum household name throughout America, and somehow or another you forget where you came from.
Allegedly
where you came from, and you find yourself in all kinds of crazy mess. And it just seems like it's the same story over and over and over again, to the point where you'd wonder why in the world would anybody pursue a career in the music industry or Hollywood, if that's the end. So
I love that. And I know that that's been a part of our discussions for years, because
my son,
your son, yes, your son is pursuing from the production side of things a career in the industry.
Yes.
And you've had some trepidation about that and some hesitation about that. And I probably share your sentiment that I found probably more bad things than there are good things in the music industry. I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee. For those of you who don't know, music artist, professional, and that's my career in life. And I probably found more bad things than good things. And because of that, I have viewed myself as a Christian missionary within the context of America, but also in the context of the music industry. And I think that if you don't view yourself as that, if you don't view yourself as a missionary,
you're done. Listen, Erskine, I honestly think you've been the saving grace for me when I think about Ethan in the music industry. I think, well, there is Erskine. So I'm like, I know there's one there for sure, who has got a different take on this, and I know that there's somebody who knows the industry in and out, and who could maybe mentor or help Ethan. I think he's pretty talented. He could do some things if he sets his mind to it. But man, can he get taken to places. And so knowing that you're there, you're kind of that pillar that God has given us to say, look, it's a little crazy, but Erskine's there. So, and Erskine knows other people like-minded, because it's not all bad. Don't hear me say that because it's never all bad. But boy, you want to talk about a small remnant. There's a small remnant in
There
Nashville.
always is a small remnant, though.
There's a small remnant, and
There's a
and so
broad
that's,
path that leads to destruction
yep,
and a narrow
yep.
gate. Only
And
few find it.
and who we're talking about today, I mean, if everything measures up to what is the alleged, and then this is the broad way, and he brought many people with him, and there is a wake of bad, so, just to try to keep us on YouTube.
Yeah, I was going to say there's some alleged things that are allegedly bad.
Pretty bad. Allegedly, if it comes out to be true, yeah, that's pretty.
If things like this happen, and so let me get the tags out of the way here because we're alleging. We're not making the allegations, but have been allegations that have been made.
That's right.
And we're trying to cover ourselves as best as possible here. The Section 107 Act, even though we're Christians, we are subject to the law, and there's a law that allows us to be able to talk about things like this under the clause of fair use for criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. And so we find ourselves in the midst of that discussion while also being followers of Christ. If you've not already liked and subscribed The Way Forward is our weekend show that Jason and I do together, then why don't you go ahead and do that? I'll pause for 3 seconds. Did you subscribe? Did you? Hopefully you already subscribed. And there's some comments that are coming in from, well, this would be Waxahachie, Ennis, Texas, Ellis County folks that I'm coming down there to see relatively soon.
Yeah.
And so you can go and tell everybody. You can go and tell everybody.
Yeah.
And
well, you're going to have to help me in the comments because I completely forgot my glasses. It has been a week, dude. And I'm forgetting things. I'm becoming that like absent-minded headmaster professor guy. I'm like, where's my glasses? I have no idea where they are. They're somewhere else.
Bro, I think it's been a week for everybody. I think Satan is working overtime because the Super Bowl is happening this week. And
he doesn't like that.
I think
Super Bowl.
This is one of the highlights of sin within the context of the entire year. The number of people who were trafficked during this week, the number of evil things that are going on, in particular in mass gatherings and betting and scandals and all the different things up to the highest levels. This week is a condensation of a lot of those different things. People literally being bussed into New Orleans and awful things are happening. But I also know that there are evangelists, at least 20 that I know, who are also bussed into New Orleans and who are in the belly of the beast right now as we speak on the corner, witnessing to folks and sharing the gospel. I was with one of them last weekend here in Nashville, and we had some great conversations. So be prayerful throughout all of this and throughout our discussion that we're having today, and for Christian missionaries and pastors who are standing on business.
Yeah. I hate
So you want to lead us in prayer? And you don't need your glasses for that because you got to bow your head and close your eyes.
Yeah, I got the eyes of my heart on Jesus right now. Father in heaven, we are so grateful, Lord, for your kindness and our friendship, and so thankful, Lord, for your wisdom. We just ask that you help us to be wise as serpents, gentle as doves, be firm in your word and edifying for the church, and always be mindful, Lord. We pray over this weekend. There is great evil that is going on, Lord, but your light can shine in the darkness. And for all those missionaries who are there sharing the gospel, we just pray that you would bless them, give them courage and the power to speak and overcome, Lord. And I draw many, Lord, to your kingdom. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that, brother. Brother Plummer, let's do this. I've got, and I'll let you decide today what you want to comment on. There's a short video that I think we could start with. It is a guy that was in the music industry or entertainment industry out in LA, and he didn't get invited to the parties because he wasn't on the A list, but he knew about the parties and kind of knew some of the things that went on at the parties. So we could respond to that as we get into this discussion. And then the other video that I have, Jason, is the one that I sent you last night. We won't be able to watch all of that, but it is one of Diddy's former producers who is talking about the things that he knows and would testify his account of things that happened at the Diddy parties.
Yeah, let's do it.
You want to start? Let's start with the short. I think we start with the short.
Start the short one. Yeah.
Okay. There's some folks who are tuning in So happy to be listening to The Way Forward, and we are always happy that you guys are listening. The comment section is turned on. This is a live show. When I say breaking news, that's not like other people's breaking news. That's this show. It is live. We are doing our thing.
We break the news.
Yeah, breaking news. Where is my breaking news? Anyway, this is the old one.
Excuse me. Sorry.
All right, here's the short.
Yeah.
Point about the Diddy parties that we really need to talk about.
I feel like Diddy took over the whole industry. Did you know anything about this?
No, I always heard about the Diddy white parties. You know, it's like all the who's who would get invited to the Diddy white parties. I was not the who's who.
Thank God.
I was not, well, I know, right? In hindsight, there were some people guaranteed that showed up to these parties, had no idea what they were getting themselves into. And the next thing they know, they don't remember the whole party because they were literally on drugs that make them not remember.
That's crazy.
And then a week later, they get a link to a video, and it's like, hey, just so you know, this is what you did at the party, and we'll let everybody know. Unless you do what we ask you to do. By the way, the casting couch is a real thing. It's been going on since the beginning of Hollywood. Mm-hmm. That's why we even know this crazy term that people throw around. The amount of desperate people that are like, I could be a star if I just do this thing. Do think it's imperative, whatever information we get from that, or anything else for that we maintain being humans that see the children of God in every other human and recognize that we are called to hold accountable, but through grace, through empathy, through humility, through mercy.
All right, so there's the short. And what are your thoughts? There's a couple
So
of things.
explain to me what is the casting couch? I've heard the term, but I'm really not all.
So that was a Harvey Weinstein kind of thing, and it's hard to implicate anything that allegedly may have taken place with Diddy without implicating Harvey Weinstein, who was convicted and found guilty of massive crimes.
Yeah.
But the casting couch is this idea that a desperate woman, and if you're in the comment section and you want to add to this or add any type of testimonies to this, then feel free to do so. But it is in general, Jason, the idea that a desperate woman would go to Hollywood and she wants to make it. Well, she's got boobs and she's got a figure and form and a form of beauty that people would look at. And so in order for her to make it, she just needs to sleep with enough of the right people that will give her entrance into the places where she wants to go. And so she uses her vagina as an opportunity to advance her way forward. And so, I want to audition for this thing. Okay, here's the couch over here. Go ahead and make that negotiation, through your vagina.
Wow.
So obviously there could have been a different explanation for that, but I'm just, in general, I wanted to make sure that everybody was clear about what the casting couch is. It's not that people were sitting on a couch and they were having a friendly discussion. It is the use of S3X for the purpose of advancement. And it doesn't just happen in the entertainment industry, but in particular in the entertainment industry, there have been a lot of people who have made their way to success with their body.
Okay. And that's what you got to pay. That's what you got to pay. All right. Man, yeah. That's people's daughters, man. It's
sons and daughters.
Sons and daughters heading to Hollywood or Nashville, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
Or New York. Or what's funny about that, in reference to the casting couch, when I was in Dallas, some of you who know, I was signed with an acting and modeling agency. I guess I technically still am, because they're still sending me stuff and I need to audition for something so that I don't lose my credentials. But one of the things that I did is I took an acting class in Dallas, and I won't mention her name, but she's one of the famous acting instructors. And we had access to her. And this was back during the time when you and I were both in student ministry.
Yeah.
And I remember they said, you should study with this particular acting coach because she's one of the best in the business, and she's actually here in Dallas. And it was only about 25 minutes away from where we were at in Ferris. And so I signed up for her class. I took her class for about 6 months. And Jason, I would say that it's been one of the most eye-opening, humbling experiences that I think I ever had. Like that whole casting couch situation, I understood that so clearly. It was so precipitously brought to me. And the whole idea of darkness in the music industry and the entertainment industry was brought to me. This was not a Christian instructor. And so there were a lot of things that happened in the class that I'm looking at happen, and I'm like, my spirit is completely grieved. There were scenes that she would give me from like milk and different things that I'd have to tell her, I'm not acting out homosexuality. I'm not acting out these different things. But it's interesting because the backlash of the other actors that were in the class to me wanting to make a solid statement about Christ was very eye-opening. I got thrown under the bus a number of times, and the level of intimidation, I would say, was almost demonic. And I would call Kelly when I'd come from class, and I'm like, I am absolutely beat down. And it was the one time I think during that period when I think, like, I'm just not good at acting. I'm just not good at this. Like, I can't hack it. I can't keep up with the other people in class. I'm never, Jason, you know how I am. I'm super competitive.
Right.
I'm never not on my game, but there's just something that is so off-putting and so just jarring about being in this class. And a lot of the actors that were in that class ended up going out to LA. And one particular student that I was able to reconnect with was a student who is in LA now, who actually was in one of the episodes of The Chosen and a Burger King commercial, who was actually a student in my youth ministry back in Ferris.
Wow.
And so, yeah, we're proud of her, but I'm always hesitant because I don't know what she's had to sacrifice to get to where she's at. I know she's been out in LA for almost 15, 16 years now. And that. And she's just now starting to make her way. But what she had to do from this girl that used to act out dramas in my student ministry to where I see her at now.
Yeah.
So my heart hurts because I would meet a lot of girls, beautiful girls, like you're talking about sons and daughters, beautiful girls who have no self-confidence whatsoever. And they had no standard whatsoever. Whatever they needed to do to get to where it is they need to get to, that's what they would do.
So they just, is it something like they just forsake their father's teaching, or is it just not being taught at home at all? Because I'm thinking about my own daughter, right? And I constantly talk to my own daughter. I'm the one who tells her she's beautiful, right? And I'm the one who tells my sons that they're, handsome or intelligent, right? And
That's
I tell
different,
them,
bro.
and I tell them in the context of saying, look, this is how God feels about you. This is what the Lord says about you. And so constantly I'm trying to tell them where they find their identity. Is it your experience, Erskine, that these kids are just forsaking what they've been taught at home, or that's not even being brought up at home?
No, Jason, it's the exact opposite. It's these kids, and a lot of them, I say a lot of them, some of them were very affluent kids who in that acting and modeling world is just so dangerous, because a lot of them from the time that they were old enough to go to an audition, which was 3, 4, 5 years old, they're child models and then they're child actors, and you've heard the just terrible stories of child actors. Everybody's telling them, you're beautiful, oh man, such great, you're just so incredible, look how beautiful you are. And it's just, if you've ever seen The Sound of Freedom, that was one of the ruses that they would use to get these kids trafficked, is to just, we're going to go to a photo shoot and then we're going to bring you in and, oh, you're doing such a good job, we want to sign you to this thing. And so you just keep going farther and farther down, and it may not always be a traffic situation, but it's not that they don't have people that are affirming them, it's that they have too many of the wrong people who are affirming them, who are manipulating them for their purposes.
So is it like the parents, I hate to use this term, but kind of hoard their kids out to Hollywood? Because the parents have got to consent to, like, let's do this audition. Let's go audition. Let's go see what we can do these classes. And are these parents just naive of what's going on in Hollywood? I mean,
Jason,
of all the stories that have come out.
Jason, we're about to have the Super Bowl, and you know how big the sway of sports is. Parents, AAU, whether it be AAU baseball, AAU basketball, flag football's taking off. There's all sorts of things that will keep parents and kids and families out of church because they're constantly chasing. They'll rearrange their whole schedule, travel, hotels, all the different things so they can be in this culture of people who are doing this thing that is going to get their kids in a place where their kids are going to be successful.
Deion Sanders just did an interview about. Well, he ripped into parents who use their kids as a payday. Did you see that?
I
That'd be
did
a
not
good
see
show.
that.
That'd be a good show sometimes. I'm starting to like Dion a lot. Like as a coach, and I'm starting to kind of pay attention to him a lot. And he was ripping into these parents who are using their kids as a payday, essentially doing all this what you're talking about in the athletics. So you're saying this happens in the industry, just like we
Whether it be sports or whether it be
right,
entertainment,
okay. So then
I
essentially
guess politics to a certain extent.
we're raising up a generation in this industry to go to Diddy parties. I mean, that's what they're there for, to go to that kind of. I mean, they're gonna get it paid. Don't get me wrong, because once you sign the contract, it's a, I give up this and you give me that and that kind of thing. So essentially, these young kids that we're putting in the industry are being kind of groomed, if you will, for these kind of parties that are going on.
Well, it's, and I don't know how much you pay attention to Lecrae.
No.
And other, you're like, no.
I used to pay attention to Lecrae, but I
Yeah.
just had to stop because not that I think he's bad entirely, but he just started kind of going too far off, and I got other things to do. So, but go ahead. I'm sorry, brother. I didn't mean to cut you.
Yeah, no. So I don't know how much I want to go back into this, but I've said this before. Like, I used to love Kirk Franklin. Used to absolutely love him.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I got in my daughter's car. It had a check engine light on, and so I was going to take it up to the service station to go get the check engine light checked on. So I checked on, and I got in her car, and she's listening to Lecrae's first album.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's represent, get crunk,
Yeah.
represent, get crunk. If you know you repping Jesus, go ahead and throw it up. And I'm like, I remember
Yeah.
when I used to listen to Lecrae,
Yeah.
and it was just, I mean, he was so focused on, man, we got to tell the world about Jesus. Send me, I'll go, send me. And my daughter's listening to this, and I'm like, that's what Lecrae used to be like.
Yeah.
And I say this with the utmost desire to have an honest conversation with both Kirk Franklin and Lecrae, if that ever should materialize. But I consider them to be whores of the music industry. And I look in the camera and I say that with almost heartache. Lecrae, Maverick City,
Yeah.
Kirk Franklin, you are whores of the music industry because you will do whatever you have to do to get your fame and to get your platform and to get your recognition, sometimes sacrificing the clear and unvarnished standard of righteousness that is found in the Bible. You know better.
I mean,
And it's not that it's not that none of us make mistakes. I'm not saying that at all.
right.
There's area for us to make mistakes, but they have found themselves, unfortunately, in very many positions after rebuke after rebuke after rebuke. Like when I heard Lecrae talking about these Diddy parties, when he was directly asked the question, he was like, okay, I went to the Diddy parties, I did this, it was wild, there were so many things I couldn't describe what's going on there. And then at about 2:00 in the morning, these people start coming out, and then they start going in a particular room, and you just know it's time for you to leave. And so I would leave at those times, but then whatever happened after that happened, and it was probably awful, some really super awful stuff that went on. And I'm like, so where's the standard of like being at these parties and being seen in places that are compromised? I'm not going to a titty bar. I'm not going to a titty bar for witness or for any type of advancement. That is just not a place that I'm going to go because there are things of ill repute that are there. Why do these artists and people not have this standard? I can only surmise. And Lecrae, you're welcome to come on my show. Kirk Franklin, you're welcome to come on my show. Maverick City, you're welcome to come on my show or this show. I can only surmise it's because you care more about yourself than Christ.
What you're saying? Lecrae said I was at the parties. This is post conversion. Post conversion, Lecrae has been at the parties. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Because you know who else is allegedly been at those parties? Is another big figure is TD Jakes. And TD Jakes, again, this last week, just had another accusation of sexual abuse of a young man brought against him.
Who was that now?
That's TD Jakes.
I didn't mention his name because
Did I cross a black line? I don't.
No,
I
no.
was confused.
Whoa, just because it's February and it's Black History Month.
Listen, sometimes I cross these black lines. You gotta get me back, bro. That's why we look out for each other.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. No, last time I checked, unless something has changed, Lecrae is also black, and Kirk Franklin is also black.
Yes,
And some of the folks in Maverick City are also black, and so they could be implicated as well in this. And so there's just so many things that are fraught with disaster when it comes to TD Jakes. I want to keep us, like I said, this could go off the tracks easy. I want to keep us on focus for this show, but there are a lot of issues that are going on. I'm also trying to pay attention to the comment section. Checking on people in Hollywood and Christian music business. Okay, yeah. Lecrae recently turned around after visiting Egypt. Apparently, he's revealed. What does it say? Oh man, I can't. Why can I not do
read it? Because I ain't get my glasses, right? I didn't show up prepared, so I can't help you out.
Revealed how real God is to him, and hang, praying and hope for the remnant. Yeah. So Blockhead. And I think that's your comment there, Blockhead. Yeah, Blockhead is commenting on that.
Who's Blockhead?
Blockhead, I think, has been on our show before. He's the history teacher.
Okay, all right.
In Ellis County. He's got the show, Your Favorite Blockhead. Check out his podcast as well. It's really fun. Really fun. Solid believer. Man of God. Going to get a chance to see him in a couple of weeks when I'm down in Texas. But Blockhead, to your comment, I did see the video from Egypt, and I did see his baptism, recent baptism video, and a lot of different things that he's put out.
Again?
That's another issue. We can't do all the things in one.
I crossed another line. Like, what am I doing here? I'm getting shut down every time I ask something. TD Jakes.
Well, TD Jakes, if you want to talk about TD Jakes, you're more than welcome to talk about TD Jakes. But I'm also saying, like, there's some problematic videos about baptism that we could get into.
Sure. We still got another video to look at. I get you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to keep us on the track as far as this is concerned. But the reason why I was mentioning that is
all over. So
I have recently heard on the Deep End, which is Lecrae's podcast, him talking to a few different artists, and the conversation that he's having. And listen, two people of a trade don't agree.
Yeah.
And so if he has a podcast and I have a podcast and he's asking people questions, I purposefully and personally know that it is easy for the human heart to say, well, I wouldn't have asked him that question. Or why did he ask the question that way? I mean, we could sit back and we can nitpick all day long. But it seems like as I'm listening to the questions that he's asking people, he's softballing them on the things, some of the things that should be more standard in terms of Christian life.
Sure.
And he's giving them a pass. Like when I heard him interviewing, who was it? Kirk Franklin, and Kirk Franklin was talking about the abuse that he had suffered and almost giving a justification for why he can act the way that he's acting. I'm thinking, I don't know that I want to give that a pass. I heard him interviewing somebody one other time, and it was just like, talk about the hurt that's in your life and things that you've gone through. I've gone through some hurt as well. And so because of that, it's almost like people get a pass for what it is that they're doing in their lives.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to slander the brother. I do consider him to be a brother. I just think that,
Lecrae, you're talking about Lecrae.
Yeah, this is Lecrae. This is Lecrae.
He's a brother who's struggling.
Because because I think this could actually really happen. Mm. Jason, I don't know if you realize this or not, but our shows are starting to get more views. Our influence is starting to get out there. And so it's conceivable, more so than it has ever been, that Lecrae would actually be able to see this. And I don't want him to hear me just condemning him, but I do want to sit down and have an honest conversation with him and say, bro, the person that you started as and the person that you became and the things that you say even now are so deeply flawed. And it relates to this conversation that we're having to keep the train on the tracks of these Diddy parties and what people are willing to do, selling their soul to the devil to get worldly fame, to get the things that they think they want, when only, and my contention is true, only Jesus can provide those things.
Right. Okay. So maybe another show at some point is Christian artists who attend Diddy parties, Christian figures who attend Diddy. What are you doing there? Why are you there? Why are you at this party? What's your motive? What are you trying to get? And is it worth what? This stuff always gets exposed. Do you remember Cat Williams' interview?
Yeah, I remember that. That blew the internet up.
That brother said 2024, I think, was going to be the year of reckoning. Like, things are going to come out. I mean, he wasn't lying. Like,
I mean, if you look at that statement and look, there's going to be people who would jump all over this.
Yeah.
If you're watching this and you want a soundbite for today, you want to edit something and put it out there about Jason and I, Cat Williams said that in 2024. About
earlier on in 2024, yeah.
Early on in 2024, there's going to be a reckoning that takes place.
Yeah. Yep.
And we're talking about the evils in Hollywood. It's funny that in 2025, God has burned Hollywood down.
Literally. Yeah.
LA fires. And listen, LA fires were not a joke. LA fires were not an accident.
Right.
The Lord is burning down places like this of such ill repute. You want a soundbite? There's your soundbite.
There's your soundbite. There it is.
But I would say that I'm not necessarily worried about 2025 and the burning of LA and various other things like that. Although I am concerned about the people and their possessions. Don't hear me hard-hearted. I'm concerned about the ultimate day of reckoning, because the Bible describes our God as a consuming fire. There is a point to a man wants to die and then the judgment. And so that is just a small microcosm of the day of judgment that is soon coming for the enemies of God.
Yeah. Yeah, that's real. That's real. Well, now I'm really curious about this this clip you got of this. So I didn't get to watch the clip, so this is gonna be my first reaction to it. All
Okay.
right? Now, what I did catch was a short of this clip of the gentleman being triggered by baby oil. So it caught my attention. Like, how in the world?
I was
are you
going to try
triggered
to.
by baby oil, right?
I was going to try to lay out some ground rules here.
Yeah. So,
No talking about baby oil. Oh,
So-
man.
that's what first got me when I started talking about this. Like, what in the world? And I thought it was a spoof at first. I thought because there's been a lot of kind of poking fun at Diddy about things, and this guy was not spoofing. He was talking about this, which you happen to find. And I thought, good Lord. This is
Let
crazy.
me respond.
So-
Let me respond to this real quick.
Mhm. Who?
I don't want to be one of those. What's the guy's name? Pat Robertson. The reason why bad things happen in the world is because God is judging everybody in the world. Were there some good people out in LA? Of course.
Yeah.
I'm not responding to that. What I am responding to, though, is that evil in the world, we tend to think that God is impotent.
Mm.
We tend to think, and this, chalk this up to me being a Reformed Calvinist. We tend to think, most people tend to think that the things that happen in this world somehow is connected to our free will, and that God is just sitting back in heaven. And oh man, I really wish I could have stopped those LA wildfires. I really wish I could have stopped this from happening. And I'm just gonna have to let it happen until they get it put out. Do you understand that I truly believe that everything that happens for a reason?
Mm.
Were there good people in LA? Absolutely. Were there godly people that were out there in LA? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Godly people who lost things? Absolutely. The rain falls upon the just and the unjust. But please understand that I honestly believe that the scriptures teach us that everything that happens in this world happens for a reason. The righteous person who lost their possessions and still had Christ was still as rich as the richest person in their possessions. Please understand that when bad things happen to good people, it makes good people better. That's what
Yeah.
Romans 8:28 is all about.
Right.
to the person who I'm speaking to now.
Yeah.
Dode Mason Wessel. All things work together for good to them that love God and are called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28. I genuinely, truly believe that. And so don't take that soundbite as me being another Pat Robertson who's here talking about all these things that are going on in the world and God is just judging people. Of course it is judgment for the unrighteous to recognize that the loss of their possessions means that they must look to a higher power and look to Christ. So don't come at me like that.
Oh.
So that was also responding to that as well.
Okay.
I'm saying what I just said to respond to that.
Good.
Let me get this. Let me get this other soundbite up here.
Good. All right. No baby oil is what you said, right?
Oh man, I slept in Diddy's house.
Mm.
Woo! So this brother, I don't know anything about this channel, but this is an ex-producer who is interviewed, and he's a Christian, and he has talent. You know, you talk about your son. Your son has incredible talent, and it is growing. He's being able to develop that. These Christians who have this talent, who it somehow fits the purpose of, Puff Daddy. Remember when he was Puff Daddy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Somehow fits the talent pool that is needed out there. And
Yeah.
I'm just going to let him cook for a little bit. And you tell me when you want me to stop this, Jason.
Okay.
I'm not listening to this all the way through, but I've listened to the parts of it that I feel like are pertinent to our discussion. And it would go beyond the time that we have in our discussion. But so I'm just going to let it cook. And he's going to give us a runway into his exposure to this industry.
Give me the talent, the ability to create this music. I'm growing, I'm getting sharper, and I'm kind of at an advantage over where most people would be at this point in their career. I've met all of these people. I've gone to New York. I bought equipment. I got to get to the top of this thing. Mm-hmm. And I told God, I'm going to just make the beats. And I did that. I started making beats for more groups, more drug dealers, started making a little more money per beat. I think I started at like $100 a beat, got all the way up to like 700, 1,000. So now things are growing. I'm about 18 years old now, and I moved to Houston.
Let's go right now into like meeting Diddy.
Okay.
What was it like meeting Diddy for the first time?
Meeting him for the first time, it was number one, it was the dream come true. I met some guys who said that they could get me to him. I'm producing records. They send one of the records, and I get a call. Hey, Diddy loves the record. He wants to use it, and I get a check for $7,000 for that little bitty track I did. It probably took me 5 minutes to make the track. So I'm steadily sending more records. And now Diddy wants to meet. Now they're like, they want you to come to New York. So I get on the plane, and I go to New York, and I go to Daddy's House Studio, 44th and Broadway in Manhattan. And we're all out there, and Diddy pulls up in a drop top Ferrari 360 Spider.
What's Daddy's house? What's the reference to Daddy's?
So Daddy's house, his name was Puff Daddy then. It wasn't Diddy. So Puff Daddy.
Oh yes, it was Puff.
It was Puff Daddy. So Daddy's house recording studio.
Okay.
Yeah, so
That was your first encounter with them. What was like your next significant encounter with them?
next,
All right. Let me just stop it right there and just get your reactions from this since you hadn't watched this.
Well,
You
it's
see the
interesting-
progression taking place here?
Yeah, it's interesting how he starts off with, I just told God. And to me, I'm starting to cringe just a little bit because you're not asking God, hey, what do you want me to do in this industry? Where do you want me to be? Where do you want me to be? You are setting the terms of God. Like, yeah, I'm going to make the beats, God. That's all I'm going to do. And that just sounds like, that's a line that I feel like is already going to get crossed. Because like you're making these deals with God, and I don't know how any different that is with Saul in Old Testament Israel, and just this idea I've just taken the
Ooh,
initiative.
that
I'm
probably is a
gonna make
great
the sacrifice.
reference.
I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this, and then we'll see if God catches up or something. I'm not one. I won't be critical of this brother, right? I don't want to. I don't want to, you know, come at him like that. But I'm just saying, if I was his pastor and we were having this conversation, I'd be like, "Ooh, let's back that up a little bit." You know, I don't know if it's
Yeah,
wise
yeah.
to tell the Lord, "This is what I'm going to do," versus saying, "Hey, what do you want me to do in this industry?" I don't mind you being in the. And I've had this conversation with my son. I don't mind you being in the industry if that's where God's called you to be, because that means the waterfall of His grace is going to be there, and He's going to empower you to be there. But don't set the terms. You know,
Mm,
let God set the terms.
yeah.
That's my
That-
first take.
Yeah, so this is interesting, Jason, because this week I got an opportunity to do a career fair for some students that we've been working with here in Nashville, and bringing these students into a career fair where we have a lot of different people who are set up. And I had my booth that was set up and asked the question for those students: would you like to engage in a career in music? What that would look like? And students come by and they ask questions, have some things out, about the income that you could expect, the level of training that you would need, all those different types of things. It's interesting that in the entertainment industry, excuse me, you virtually can become successful with no traditional career path training.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like this guy's talking about, he's 18 years old. He's at his home studio making these beats for people.
Yep.
It's like $100 a beat. He's kind of working, doing his different things. And then he starts making $1,000. And then he starts getting these beats to Puff Daddy. And it's like, he likes the beats. And so, 7,000 here, 7,000 there. All of a sudden
Wow.
you're on a plane. What school did he go to? What professors did he have?
Yeah.
What credentials did he have?
Yeah. He ain't got no student debt. No.
Yeah. What student debt do you have that holds you accountable?
I just had a conversation with an aunt of a young man who's wanting to go to Belmont. I'm like, why you want to go to Belmont, man? It's a quote unquote Christian school that costs you like 50 grand a year to do what, right? If he really wants to go make it, go to Nashville and just figure it out. Don't spend the 50 grand, right? You don't
It's
need
funny.
it.
I had a conversation with a student from Belmont last week. We were out doing evangelism at Centennial Park, and the student was like, "Yeah, I've read the Bible from cover to cover, and I don't really." It's kind of like this new atheism thing that's going on. I don't really have a problem with the Bible, Jesus. I believe that he was a good person and taught some great moral teachings, and I basically generally don't quibble about the morality of the Bible. It produces good things in people's lives. And he thought that I was going to pat him on the back. And I said, first of all, I think you're confusing the term Christian.
Yeah.
Please don't call yourself a Christian. And in fact, what you've done in this conversation has revealed to me that you're a very prideful and arrogant person. Because, and here's the deal, and I said it out loud in front of everybody. I said it loud enough so that everybody could hear me. I said, because pornography and looking at pornography is wrong. And I looked around to make sure that everybody could hear what the hell I was saying. And it's wrong. Not based. You would say that it's wrong, but if you could come up with a plan to look at less pornography than somebody else, or to stop looking at pornography at all, you would say I got that morality from the Bible. But the fact that you think that you can actually even accomplish righteousness without bowing your knee and bending your knee to Christ is absolutely false, idolatrous theology that you believe. And so if Christ is not going to be everything to you, then he's nothing to you.
Yeah.
And so you may have thought that you satisfied the conversation by saying, well, I don't have a problem with Jesus. He's good. Taught some good things. If he's not Lord of your life, then he's nothing. Every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord to the glory of God the Father, even your knee. Bow now, son. Bow now, son.
That's it.
And stop going to that weak sauce Belmont.
And don't pay 50 grand for it. Jeez.
Bro, it's more than 50 grand.
I know. I'm just
It's more
throwing numbers out there.
more than 50 grand.
Yeah.
Belmont University.
Well, we lost a sponsor.
Look, Belmont knows.
Uh,
Belmont knows. And actually, I'm supposed to get together with one of the other students at Belmont who's been doing some production work for me. And just a lot of nonsense out in this world.
That significant
Keep going,
encounter
keep
was in Miami.
Okay.
I was in Miami at a party, I just remember him walking in and asking everybody, "Hey, what kind of
Listen to
girls
this.
do y'all want?"
What kind of what?
And like,
What kind of women do y'all want? Now he's in Miami with Puff Daddy.
What kind of women do y'all want? Like they're a commodity. Like you just go buy, booze from the store. Hey, we're gonna pick up these kind of women.
a few
Man,
moments
talk
later,
about people like that.
girls came in. I think somebody said they wanted Puerto Rican girls. Just a bunch of them came in.
Where did it come from?
I don't know. I didn't have the connections, but
Wow.
so we're in Miami, and that was just that was just one of the many instances where like the power that this guy could get whatever he wanted. There was already girls there at the party, but I believe these girls came specifically to do whatever we wanted them to do. So
And it's suffice to say at this point you're backslidden, you're gone, or there's still a fight in there? Or-
there's still a fight. There's still a fight. I'm dealing with the voice of the Lord every moment telling me to get out of there, and fighting this. I actually feel like I'm going crazy, and I'm trying to share with other people to see if they're going through the same thing, because I know some of the producers and the writers that I'm around, they came from church too, and I'm wondering, like, man, how are y'all like not feeling this? Like, because the fire of God is all over me, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna lose my mind trying to fight this. So there was a couple guys I would try to talk to, and I would say, hey, how do you feel about doing secular and and working for the Lord? Like, how are you feeling about it? And some guys would say, hey, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, it's just a gift. And so a lot of times I would go back to God, like, God, you gave me the gift. Why am I feeling this way? Why am I struggling?
All right, I'm gonna stop it right there.
You're at a
Get your
party
comments.
where somebody is offering you women as like it's candy, like it's booze. So not to bring the Puritans into this, but
But I feel like the Puritans are about to come in, and
feel
Joel
like-
Beakey is leaning closer a little bit now to your comments.
right. There is a problem with like the there's a couple of things to think about with this that I think that are the idea of putting yourself with this kind of company, right? So
Bad company
you
corrupts
have
the character.
it's the danger of wicked friends that Thomas Manton talked about. And
Oh,
listen
this
to what
is
he
great.
says, right? Thomas Manton, he says, man being a sociable, creative, is mightily encouraged to do so as others do, especially in an evil example. For we are more susceptible of evil than we are of good. Sickness is sooner communicated than health. We easily catch a disease of one another, but those who are sound do not communicate the health to the disease. And what he's trying to say here is what Paul kind of sums up in, bad company corrupts good morals. If you put yourself around the environment, the good inside that God is doing in you is not going to supersede the bad that you're around. You're going to speak the truth and they're going to kick you out, or you're going to leave. So if you're showing up at a Diddy party, it's not because you're trying to tell them about Jesus.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And the effect of that is the bad usually wears on you more than the good.
Mhm.
And so, there's a couple of decisions being made now. It's cool to hear that he's fighting with God in this, because God is literally working his conscience to say, this is not a good place. I'm not here. This is not where you need to be. You're not
Hound
being
of
the
heaven.
light, right? Because like you said, when you were in Dallas, I'm not going to do this scene. I'm not going to act out this wickedness. And the backlash you got and the intimidation you got literally is pushing you out the door, right? If you're not getting that, then what's happening is you're like it's seeping into the soil of your heart, and that's where danger happens. Because are you going to start hardening? is this going to be to your decline now, where you walk away? Like, that's the danger, you know. And I don't know what
Yeah.
if he had a pastor in his life he was talking to. I know he was talking to music people, but did he have a solid brother in his life saying, "Hey, dude, this is not where you need to be"?
This would
it's
be
gonna
worth
cost you.
watching this whole entire interview, because it's very
Yeah.
interesting to see kind of his escape from that. Maybe we can listen to a little bit more of this and maybe get to a certain part. I was listening, I forget exactly where that was at, to where he's talking about what. Yeah, let me see if I can see what kind of brought him out of this. What kind of revealed to his eyes like this is
Yeah.
pure evil nonsense.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Emotionally and psychologically.
Tell us about the overall environment of the music industry. You're in now, the secular industry at least. What did you experience, let's say more so from a spiritual Christian's perspective, being inside? What did you experience?
One thing I experienced is that this whole thing is spiritual.
This is the part that I
Most
want you to
people
hear.
would just attribute it to being gifted or being talented, but the spirit realm very much controls what it sounds like, what it looks like, what happens in these rooms, on these records, what's written. I remember even the first record that I did for Bad Boy Records. I remember being in the studio for 4 days straight, no sleep, because I was driven by something more than just my own ability. It was something driving me.
Was it the demonic spirit?
I believe it was a demonic spirit, in the sense that if I wasn't in those realms, I couldn't hear the music like that. I couldn't hear it as clear. Like, there were certain sounds and certain things that I could hear and produce that if I wasn't in that mind frame, I wouldn't be able to produce it.
So
Okay,
what got
hold
you
on
in
here
that
for a
mind
second.
frame?
This goes beyond Diddy now. So
Yeah,
we need
that's
to
why I
do a
wanted you
show.
to kind of open this up.
Yeah, we need to do a show at some point. Now, I've never been one to say the devil's in the downbeat, right? 'Cause the whole drums argument in church
The
and things like
drums,
that.
yeah.
Okay.
The fundamentalists have turned us
However,
off at this point.
this goes back when rock and roll, and inside of rock and roll's history, there has always been a theology from its get-go. Most of its talent has come from the church. A lot of its talent has come out from the church I mean, even Elvis Presley was impressed by the gospel music of the black church, and starting to bring this into mainstream. But if you start to get into the 60s and 70s, you start getting into the drug use and the sexual revolution, and you start getting into these bands, these rock bands, and you start to see the culture develop. It's very demonic. I mean, in the sense that
Absolutely. He's about to talk about some of that.
right? But there's also an element there where of connecting to the spiritual world to create albums. Led Zeppelin has got a fantastic history. And when I say fantastic, I'm saying that it's not good in the sense that, wow, it's more of a, this is compelling. The stories of Jimmy Page consulting with mediums and different things like that on albums. This goes back in rock and roll's history from the 60s and 70s. So what he's talking about here with Diddy, this has been happening for a long time. At least there have been testimonies of people who have discussed this over and over.
Yes.
I actually think a wonderful podcast would be Theology and Music. My son and I have talked about this, just to simply see what in the world's going on in the spiritual realm with his music.
Yeah.
So without being too wacky about, the devil's always in rock and roll, but he is. So he is there, and you do have to pay attention to some of that. And so it's just so interesting that he's saying in the studio, I'm driven 4 days straight by some other demonic thing. Well, that's actually been recorded in history for a long time. That's been something that's happened. People have testified of something similar. And right now, my mind is Led Zeppelin's. I can't remember the album. It's one with all the symbols on it. That's one of their kind of mysteries behind their album, was some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So
Couple more moments on this, and then I'll probably sum up with some comments about this and just
Yeah.
kind of our studio process.
What would it be?
It would be focus, just almost channeling something else. We getting in the studio and just, you know, channeling it, just pulling it out. And when I got to a certain level of it, I noticed it could come in 5 minutes. I could just create something and it would be amazing. Some of the most amazing music I ever heard.
Wow.
Mhm.
And you described moments where you saw people actually doing
Oh,
seances over their music.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So what did that look
Yeah.
like?
So we would all be in the studio and it would almost be ritualistic. You know, we would light candles and
Oh, well, let me get past this, because I want to hear this last part of what it is that he has to say.
This
Hey,
is
get
what
some
I'm
of dope.
talking about, though. Like rock bands tapping into this stuff.
they're playing, you know, they would, you know, their hands would be moving like this and they would be chanting different things over the music alone. This is before it goes to the writers. And honestly, I can hear it in my ears like it was just yesterday. Like it was amazing music. And I again, you don't get to those realms without a supernatural aid or a supernatural guide.
Okay, that's where I want to stop it. That's where I want to stop it and just say that
But he's not off though, right? Because what do we do in church? I mean, the music in church, right? That's a supernatural thing we're doing.
yes, and I think that that's one of the things that I appreciate him saying, is that there's behind the music, there's the supernatural is all around us.
Mhm.
The supernatural is happening all the time, but we often, you know, we default to, well, it's just a formula or it's a form or it's a specific time. But the supernatural is happening all around. The Spirit of God dwells within us. And so everywhere we go, there's a supernatural thing that is going on. Everything that we let come into our mind, let coming into our heart, everything that we project or believe, mentalities that we believe in about ourselves or about others, about the world, it all has supernatural and spiritual implications to it. And so I don't want to leave anything out of the discussion, but particularly in the realm of entertainment and arts, there's this very real sense that the creative realm that artists pull from has to be aided from something. And so I love it when I've written 2 songs recently, and in those songwriting rooms, one of the things that we'll do is we will get out the Bible and we will read passages of scripture to aid us in the writing process. What has God said about himself? So therefore, making sure that what we're saying about God is in line with what he said about himself.
Yeah.
And, you know, where's God working in our lives? What is he showing us? Some great truth. We're not rewriting the Bible, but the Bible certainly has to be our guide, because we're not going to write anything or say anything that we believe is antithetical to the Bible.
Right.
That's not our purpose in gathering together to write. And so I just wrote a song with Lydia Walker called "Oh the Beauty." It's a worship song, actually. And then I played another worship song last week that I had written with a group out of Michigan. I forget the title of that song, but it is but it's the same process that we use, getting scripture out and allowing scripture to inform that process. Now, if you're not a believer, then what informs that process? Some people would say
right. Exactly
nothing.
right.
Well, no, there's something that is informing that process.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
something that you're drawing truth or what you believe to be truth from, that's informing your mind, that's activating your heart, and now your creative energies to go in a particular direction.
It's so I'm becoming so much more aware of that as I've gotten older. My daughter is Abigail is doing something kind of neat. She came to me the other day and said, "Dad, you know, I've with Lent coming up, I'm trying to prepare my heart for before Easter. We celebrate the resurrection pretty big." She says, "I'm just going to get rid of all secular music right now." And not that she listens to a ton of it, but she said she listens to enough of it that it influences her thinking. And she's realized that this music, that we listen to it differently. We're a musical family, and we listen. We really intake it, and I can sit and listen to music like I'm watching TV. and she's come to realize that there's something there that stirs her, that it's not always in towards the Lord. And so I've become aware that you can go to a concert and you can worship at a secular concert as much as you can in church,
Oh, yes.
right? And then if you're not worshiping God at a secular concert, what are you worshiping? Right? That's your heart could be so stirred, you could be so moved, and we just say it's the human spirit. And I'm growing and understanding, say that's not just the human spirit. There's something else going on there that is solidifying your affections, and it's not towards the Lord. It's not towards
Yeah. You know, I'd made the statement, the music industry and entertainment industry whores, and I know that that's not a very pleasant term at all. And in fact, in this particular episode, since it's the focus of what we're talking about, I don't apologize for that, because I want to present the image that is going to give you a graphic explanation of what I believe is really happening. There's a group out there that's called Pentatonics. You've probably heard them before. They've got the Mary Did You Know, and they've got a lot of different things. I would consider on the secular side. So there's Christian artists like Katy Perry who start out as Christian and then they completely sell out. And if you saw Katy Perry's last interview that she did with the psychologist, she's an absolute wreck. Pray for that lady, because her mental state is so fried because she sold her soul to the devil. And it's just so heartbreaking to see what happened to Katy Perry. But then on the other side of that, there are people who are secular who say during Christmas time, you know what, we can sell more records if we do a good version of Mary Did You Know? We can sell more records if we take some of these traditional Christmas and holiday songs and put our own spin and interpretation to them, and we'll make money off the Christians as well, because they're gullible. After all, they don't really care who sings the song. They just want it to sound good, be on their playlist, and then go about their business. I would say you guys are also music industry whores, because you'll do whatever you need to do to try to make money, and then make money off the name of Jesus when it's appropriate and beneficial for you. So I'm actually literally calling out everybody who is of this manipulative mindset in the music industry, whether you be Christian or non-Christian.
Yeah, because you know why you could do that? Because you ain't got a contract with the music industry.
Hey, if they ain't feeding you, then they can't starve you.
That's right. That's right. I'm trying to, and my son is, I think he's feeling it, but I can just keep preaching that. Listen, if they don't feed you, they can't starve you.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't own you, they can't sell you. Like, don't tie yourself down necessarily. So
and it comes in all subtle forms. And I appreciate when D1 was saying this on one of his interviews. I don't agree with everything that D1 says, but I don't agree with everything that I say. He was saying that, in the music industry, especially the Christian music industry, and you hear this guy talking about the secular influence. You guys do know that the major Christian labels are owned by secular entities.
Right.
And so let that be known, that at the end of the day, the passion that you and I, Jason, have for the Word of God and Jesus and bold evangelism and missiology is not going to be embraced by the music industry.
In the Christian music industry.
It's not welcome at all. But here's the deal. In the Christian music industry, if you're on level 10 and you're like really going after this thing, they're not going to tell you don't be a Christian anymore. You can say Christian things. You can say family-friendly things.
Yeah.
You just can't be at level 10. We need you to be at a level 6, level 5. Keep it safe for the whole family. Keep it Christian friendly. Don't talk about sin. Don't identify particular people who are out there.
You talk about joy.
Joy. Keep it joyful. Keep it upbeat. Let's produce it a certain way that kind of sounds a little hokey and little family wonky and different things like that.
Minivan moms. Gotta keep
so we can keep this cash flow going. And so they were not going to tell you to not be Christian. Just don't be that Christian.
Don't be that Christian.
Don't be that involved in the apologetics of the discussion.
Just tame it down a little bit,
Yeah.
Turn the knob down just a hair.
Yeah.
Much, a little more
Write
distortion.
your own Christian songs. Going into year 13 now of being in Nashville, writing my own Christian songs, and then years of that before. I think there's a pathway to be able to write your own songs. All right, let's do some way forward takeaways for today, and then we'll get out of here for this one.
Don't go to a Diddy party.
Dun dun dun.
Then number one, if you're in the music industry and you're a Christian, don't go to those parties. Don't go. And listen. And I don't want Christians to leave the music industry. That's not the answer. Be in the world, not of it. But you're going to have to understand that your ministry and your path to success is going to look different. You know, and the church. Here's the problem: is I get annoyed with is that the church listens to so much of the Christian music industry and not enough of the worship and the theology and the stuff, because the Christian music industry is not going to play it. Then there's some wonderful people out there writing some wonderful theologically rich songs that are just encouraging. Sovereign Grace music, City of Light music. I mean, they're doing the Gettys, they're doing wonderful stuff, but they're just few and far between. But you know, what if the church took the stance of, hey, we're gonna really go for depth and richness about God, and began to say enough of not holding these musicians and these industries accountable. The Maverick Cities, the Kirk Franklins, these people who are time and time again showing us their character is not what it needs to be to represent on the platform that they're on. And so the church has got at some point turn that radio off or do something. You know, you got to switch appetites. You've got to turn to something and not just settle for what they're feeding you. And that's, I could even see pastors getting fired over something like that. You know, that's how crazy it is. That's how deep it is.
Yeah.
And I don't knock, you know, there's some people in the music industry I've really come to respect. I'll tell you right now, I just had a conversation with my son about Toby Mac. I told Abram that I think that Toby Mac is one of the greatest hook writers in the music industry. The man knows how to write a hook. And I have to say this, he's always kept his theme about Christ and the kingdom. It's not songs you necessarily have to sing in church. That's fine. But he's always kept it that way.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when he lost his son, I just was impressed with how his character handled that struggle. And I thought to myself, well, there's a man that seems to hold it together inside the Christian music industry.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not.
And I've worked with Toby Mac myself, and
Yeah.
I can corroborate a lot of things that you're saying. And then, you know, losing his right hand man, Gabe, and just a lot of different. He's gone through a lot of loss.
Yeah. He, you know, and here's a guy who continues to point things back to Christ, and so I'm like, you know, there's somebody out there who I could say, hey, Abram, you know, that's somebody I think you could probably look at and learn a lot from. There's just not enough of them. There's just not enough. I mean, and I would think that he being in the industry for as long as he's been in could probably tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
Especially after he talks about some of the struggles his own son went to in the music industry, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So the church is at some point going to have to draw the line and start to say, we are no longer accepting the food that's being put before us at this table, because this is not enough. It's not enriching our relationship. It's not giving us the spiritual nourishment we need. And your character does matter. You know, who you are presenting this does matter. No different than I would even say to some degree is I can't stand the pulpit and preach the word of God and be acting like a pagan throughout the rest of the week. It ain't working.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't gonna work. So the church at some point has got to draw this line. And I don't know if the church will do it. This is one of those things, because Christian music has fought so hard to get the platform it's gotten. Remember when it was really super cheesy and we didn't think anybody was going to listen to it, and then all of a sudden it took off in what I would say the 2000s ish, maybe. I don't know. The 90s had a little bit, but Michael W. Smith helped that out a little bit, and it grew. And then all of a sudden in the 2000s, it became cool to listen to Christian music. And once they realized
Jesus Music is a good movie that kind of chronicles this.
I'm sorry?
Jesus Music.
Yeah. You know, so the church at some point is going to have to draw its line. I guess that's my way forward, is be more particular about what you listen to. And if you are going to go into the music industry, good riddance. Don't find yourself at a Diddy party. Don't sell your soul out to get the success. God will provide other ways for you to make it. And that missionary mindset, ministry mindset that I appreciate about you, Erskine. I actually think that's the model. That's the way to go about it. God will raise up the rest. He'll take care of it.
Praise
That's
the Lord. That's good. Well, here's the deal. I don't want there to be a target on my back now that I've called out some folks from the music industry. But now I actually don't mind there being a target on my back. To your point, Jason, I absolutely embrace the idea that I'm going to be held accountable for every word that is said on this show. I like that. Not only do I like that as a model for this show, I like that as a model for the Christian living, for the Christian life, that we are accountable to what we say and what we do. And look, you're looking at the picture screen right now. It's not perfection. There's a lot of things the Lord is working out. And Philippians 1:6, I'm working out my salvation with fear and trembling. But here's what I know. Here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to give the devil credit. We're going to give glory to Christ. We're going to stay focused on the mission at hand, knowing that the time is short. And for all of our way forward takes, and I would say especially on this one because it is near and dear to my heart, I don't care if you produce music or not. If you're just a listener to music, that's fine. That's wonderful. You do what God has called you to do in the area that God has called you to do. And I can guarantee there's people who are corrupt who are there, but our mindset has got to be, whether it be in the creative arts or whether it just be in business or whatever it is that we're doing, we've got to be missionaries in this world. This world is not our home. We should not be growing comfortable in this world. We should not be settling for our best life now and settling in and trying to keep everything that we possibly can. Our hands should be open. Lord, how do you want me to use? If you're talented out there and you have gifts, you can produce, you can write songs, music, you can play instruments. Wonderful, beautiful. Develop those things. But our hands are always open to say, Lord, what would you do with this gift? What would you do with this ability that you've given me so that I can reach people for Christ? At the end of the day, Erskine Music is nothing more than the brand thing that we have to put out there to tell people that we're open for business so that we can serve you in the way that God has called us to. And that just happens to be through fire, awesome music. So I don't apologize for doing awesome music. I don't apologize for being in the music industry. I don't apologize for calling out people in the music industry. I don't apologize for calling out the people in church. I just want to call us to step the hell up to another standard that God has called us to live the life that God has called us to the glory of King Jesus and him alone.
Amen. Amen. And call my son to that same standard.
Yeah, well, you'll get it. He'll get it. All right, Way Forward Show. This has been a good one today. It's been fun. Any topics you want to tease for next week? Since you're throwing out these challenging, we're probably going to talk about Super Bowl.
Well, you got the Super Bowl. I would love to discuss at some point. We don't have to do it next week, but the fallout of the eradicating the DEI stuff and Trump's major push to help keep biological sports on track. I don't know if you're paying attention to the response, which I just think is outrageous by some people. Well, that used to be just plain out common sense, and I have to tell you, at this point, I have to tip my hat to Donald Trump. He's for the most part doing the things that need to be done, and I'm happy. I don't know what's going to happen from here on out, but I have to say I like a lot of where he's going, and I love the government cleanup. It always hurts to have to do things like this, like the USAID thing going down. There's always going to be some issues there. People who are going to suffer not getting certain funds. I was a part of that. I was a program way back when I was younger that lost funds because of cuts, but that's the nature of the beast. But I would love to see more of it and like to see more cleanup. And so he's doing what he said he would do, and he's doing it pretty quickly. So I'm curious about how it's going to work out. But as much as I've been critical of President Trump at different times, I have to also, when I feel like he's actually following through, keeping his promises, then So I
I
wouldn't
like
mind
those as
talking
well.
about that.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Maybe we do Super Bowl next week, and then we'll get to that.
Yeah.
in the following weeks.
And how it's rigged and how it's already going to be a three-peat. And hey, let's go on real quick and say Kansas City's going to three-peat.
I got the Eagles in this one.
No, Erskine. You're not
Oh, my
supposed to
bad.
say that out loud. No, no.
I did
'cause
say
now
that
they're
out loud.
cursed.
He's very superstitious.
Remember the curse. Every time you call a team, they fail. Jalen Hurts is gonna be calling you up. Saquon Barkley's be like, "What?"
Eagles
did you
fans
do?
all over the place
What did you
are going to
do?
start mailing in.
Yep,
Oh, disgruntled.
man.
Not just disgruntled their fan. I picked
Yeah,
them to
in
win.
Philadelphia, that's the wrong crew to mess with. They do things.
Yeah.
They do things. So,
It's the way forward. We're out of here.
all right.
Government officials